Who asked about Luther? You asked about it. So because we anticipate Luther is wrong. One of the reasons probably is that monasticism in its beginning begins as a movement in some way against the church, a movement of people which will leave the city. The priests stay in the city, okay, we go elsewhere. We go in the desert, we go in another place, and we build another community. Christian, of course, but not like the church. And this is clear because, for instance, when we read the first rule, we find always the problem. What shall we do if a priest wants to enter in the monastery? So, a lot of precaution. The priest can enter the monk, but he must not really be part of the community, absolutely not. And he has no peculiar, he cannot say, I'm a priest, I'm more important than you, or try to say what we must do. A priest can stay temporarily, for a short time, but not as a monk, he's not a monk, he's an extraneous body. But we must, then the history of the relationship between monasticism and the church is the history of the progressive control of the church on the monastic orders. Till now in monastic orders, we perceive them as a part of the church. Often now the monks are priests. There are monks, they are not priests, but often they are priests. So the history went in this direction, that the crucial moment was the moment of Carlomagno, how do you say it?
Charlemagne.
That's the crucial moment, because in that moment the church obtains from Charlemagne that the bishop has a certain control on the monasteries. Up to that moment the bishop had no control on the monasteries, but through this alliance between the church and the empire, and then it begins and then go on, etc., etc. But you must never forget this antagonism. Of course, an antagonist from within. I mean, they are Christian. They not pretend not to. They are not enemies of the church, but they try to get away, to go away. And they do it physically. No, the priest lives in the city, take care of the people. The monks go away, and so there is an inner antagonism which has a long history, a moment of extremization. Perhaps the biggest moment in this fight is precisely the Franciscan orders, when at a certain moment after Francis' death there is a struggle between the order and the Pope. The Pope was John the 22, who was a great enemy of the Franciscans, and especially of the spiritual, the tendency, the current of the Franciscans called spiritualist. So I wonder why the actual Pope took the name of John 23. You know that there is the choosing of a name is always meaningful. So he chose the name of a Pope who was first a jurist, canonist, and second, the one who made the strongest struggle against the Franciscan spiritualists. And this came to a breaking. Literally breaking. So the Franciscan denied the Pope. Said, you are not the Pope, you are an apostate. And that moment, the chief of the order, Michel da Cesena, followed by Occam, the great philosopher. Occam was a Franciscan. So Michel da Cesena, the chief, Occam, and many others, left the attacked the Pope and went to live under the protection of the Emperor. So there is really a struggle. It becomes a struggle with the soldiers and denying the Pope. So you see how strong it can be.
There is an excellent book with this background, The Name of the Rose.
Pardon?
The Umberto Eco book, The Name of the Route, with all this background.
I know the title, but not the book. So what is the question? What is a monastic rule? We can ask. What does it mean to live according to a rule? What is a life? What is a monastic life? So this is, as I told you, an investigation in progress. But this part on the monastic rule is already finished. But it's too big to really. I cannot really enter in all the details. We have not the time. It's not, perhaps also not so interesting for you. I'll try to choose some important moments of this.
Sorry. What was the reason that he took the name John?
So a pope chose the name.
Yes.
He chose to be the 23. Mm-hmm. So you have to see who is the predecessor. John 22. John 22 is the Pope who struggled against the Franciscan, and that the Franciscan refused as Pope, condemned as apostate. I think that, of course, on the contrary, my problem is to understand why John 23, who was so peculiar man, so interesting man, choose this name. I always wondered. I always wondered. I have no answer.
In fact, he was very different in John 22nd.
Yeah, he apparently he was the contrary.
He was a leftist.
He was a leftist. But it remains for me always a puzzle. Why to choose this?
They say that some of the documents that have come out recently said that he called Vatican II because he wanted to organize some of the rules and clothing and everything, and there was such a movement of theologians and stuff that it just kind of turned into Vatican II.
Yeah, because of course John 22, the one against the Franciscan, was also a great organizer of the church, and his struggle against the Franciscan was part of this. He wanted to take control. But nevertheless, for a man like John 23, it's really strange. Because he seems to be on the side of the Franciscans.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. He even liked your film, the Pasolini film about the Evangelio. I mean,
for me, it was always a puzzle to understand. So let's now try to enter a little in the monastic literature, and particularly in these very peculiar texts, which are the rules. It's something very new. It begins in the 4th and the 5th century, and then goes on. And I think it's a kind of literature that before did not exist. In the antiquity, we do not have rules. We have like the things that Foucault studied, exercises, asceticism, but never a literature under the form of rule of life. And I had to go through this quite big literature, and the first thing that you notice is its heterogeneity. They are completely in the four, completely different texts. You can have a long text of 300 pages like the Regula Magistri, and you can have a text of 3 pages like the Augustinian rules. You can have rules that have the form of a series of questions and answers, like perhaps the most ancient one,